voted for Clinton, but the idea that I could talk to them as freely as I felt this conversation was going is emblematic to me of why the Democrats lose the election.
That acknowledges male-female distinctions. What a concept, right?
Of course.
I mean,
of all the low-lying fruit that the Democrats just hand the Republicans to win elections, that's the one.
The modern left. It's an attempt always to intimidate people into not ever doing it again. It's to silence yourselves or we'll do it for you. That's the purpose of this op-ed, so that the next comedian or the next person on the American left chooses not to speak it.
Larry, you won't want to miss any of this because it's the kind of moment that demonstrates how quickly the narrative is changing. David attempted to troll Bill Maher over his meeting with Trump, but it's not going well at all. Larry's situation is beginning to look pretty bad, especially now that Bill is standing by everything he said and exposing the woke Democrats even more. What's making this even more powerful is that conservatives like Scott Jennings and Charlie Kirk are now speaking out and supporting Bill's honesty.
Who is critical of Trump every episode he has, literally every single episode, and says very nasty things. In fact, one of the things Trump was so happy about when I saw him after my Bill Maher appearance was how much I gave it to him. I got right back in his face because Bill was saying terrible things about Trump when Trump was watching it, thinking this is very irritating. Every night he's out there. That's not enough for Larry David. You have to hate him in your heart. You have to always act like you hate him.
It must be all encompassing.
That he's
That's exactly.
Yes.
Keep going. Yes, that's exactly right.
Yes, and then Larry David reportedly, Cheryl Hines, RFKJ's wife, works on that show. She played his wife and now his ex-wife on that show. And there were rumors, this is not confirmed by me personally, but there were rumors all over the Hollywood press rags that she was getting blowback when he came out and endorsed Trump and when he first threw his hat into the political ring at all because, was it going to hurt Joe Biden or Kamala Harris when he was running as a Dem because that could help Trump and God forbid. And that Cheryl had to be sure to play it right down the middle. Oh, that's just my husband. That's not me. Kind of having to disavow her husband because she's on Larry David's show. These people are sick. They're sick. I talk about this all the time. For 17 years, I lived on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. I did not have a friend who was a conservative. My friends at Fox, yes, but no one in my neighborhood or from my kids' schools, nobody. They were all leftists. If you made politics the stakes of your relationship, you were going to have zero friends in where I lived on the Upper West. It was just the most convenient place to get my kids into school and for me to work at Fox. What kind of a freak is like this, where you can't privately have your own views, like in the case of Cheryl Hines, or publicly be one of Trump's chief antagonists, but have one night where you try to see his humanity? That's all Bill Maher did. Such a risk that Bill Maher could be co-opted, that he actually could, as I said, in 4 years, vote MAGA, that they have to start training him now. He's got to be beaten and demonized and get the full Adolf treatment.
I totally agree, but I think Bill Maher's got a little Joe Rogan in him. I think he's gonna only go closer to teen reality. I think he's not gonna be bullied. I think the more you antagonize him, he kind of says the F you. I get that kind of energy from him. Very similarly, where they're gonna push him more into.
However, that wasn't enough for the wokies, who are still incensed, not because he switched sides, but because he dared to sit with Trump and speak the truth aloud, which was enough to send them into full meltdown mode. Even after the Oval Office dinner, Bill Maher made it clear that he was just there watching and truly amazed by what he saw. He even stated that nothing about that night would change who he is or what he believes.
He laughs. I've never seen him laugh in public. But he does, including at himself. And it's not fake. Believe me, as a comedian of 40 years, I know a fake laugh when I hear it. And I thank you for that. Example, in the Oval Office, he was showing me the portraits of presidents, and he pointed to Reagan and said, in all seriousness, the best thing about him, his hair. I said, well, there was also that whole bringing down communism thing, waiting for the button next to the Diet Coke button to get pushed and I go through the trap door. But no, he laughed, he got it. Look, I get it. It doesn't matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking it as a positive that this person exists, because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absence, at least on this night with this guy. I never felt I had to walk on eggshells around him. And honestly, I voted for Clinton and Obama, but I would never feel comfortable talking to them the way I was able to talk with Donald Trump. That's just how it went down, make of it what you will. Me, I feel it's emblematic of why the Democrats are so unpopular these days.
And this is precisely the reason they continue to intensify their insane opinions. If you haven't seen it before, their goal is to silence anyone who reveals the truth about Trump. But in doing so, they are just further alienating themselves from common sense and the rest of America.
Because Bill Maher, first of all, I totally agree. He's totally in the right to do it. And I loved his monologue. Even though I disagree with most everything he believes politically, he was right to do this and he was right to speak out about it. But this isn't about that dinner. It's about the next one, because this is the modern left. It's an attempt always to intimidate people into not ever doing it again. It's to silence yourselves or we'll do it for you. That's the purpose of this op-ed, so that the next comedian or the next person on the American left chooses not to speak to Donald Trump. This is all an effort to get people not to do what you just said, which is to talk to each other and our political leaders.
This is precisely the attitude that people ought to have, and it's the same assurance that Bill Maher brought to that dinner. He didn't back down. Instead, he confronted it head-on, discarded all of their arguments, and his explanation of how he differed from the woke crowd said it all.
Jihadis that want to kill me, the purple-haired jihadis, the woke guys.
Well, they want to kill me just as bad.
Well,
Oh, they really do.
No, you've been very outspoken on the woke stuff. Big time.
Yes. I mean, and they, just the way within a religion, they hate their own apostates more. I would say they hate me more because I'm supposed to get on the short bus to Crazy Town with them. And I won't. And yet I'm still a liberal and still we probably could argue all day about Donald Trump and what he's doing, which I'm not down with. But, it's always the people who are closest who think, oh gosh, you shouldn't have, you're a traitor somehow.
I was going to ask, is it because they thought you were one of them and that...
I am one of them. They're not one of me.
Okay.
It's the liberals who have...
So they've left you, not you left.
Yeah, well,
I
feel like there's... Liberal and woke are two completely different things. It was a theme of my last stand-up special that I just did a few months ago. And it's basically, it wasn't the whole special, of course, but it was a large part of it devoted to that, to proving that case that, what liberals believe, woke is something completely different. It's very often the opposite of it. Liberalism is, let's live in a colorblind society. That's the goal. Woke's goal is, we see race everywhere.
Race obsession.
Yes. Okay. So that's not liberal. You change. Liberal is there are two-state solution. Woke is river to the sea. Okay. So just don't take my word and say you're that. You took this and took it to, you got off the F train, you fell asleep, and you got off the 20 stops too far, and don't blame me for that.
And none of the wokies were very appreciative of what he did. But that didn't stop Bill Maher from standing his ground and exposing the awakened lunatics with even more truth. He made it plain that he wasn't there to win their approval, but rather to say what needed to be done.
Well, I voted for Clinton, but the idea that I could talk to them as freely as I felt this conversation was going is emblematic to me of why the Democrats lose the elections. Because they just don't feel that this is like a real person. And I know it's so weird to say that about Donald Trump, who I've said a jillion times is, a whiny little bitch. I mean, I could go through my greatest hits of insults, but this was about getting past that and maybe seeing that if we met in person, we don't hate each other as much, and we don't. And I'm sorry, I'm not gonna pretend that's a bad thing.
However, the Democrats have failed to complete their research. They have never paused to consider the reasons behind their electoral defeat. And despite Bill Maher's persistent cries, no one on the left appears to be listening. The wokies continue to circle in circles, trapped in their own echo chamber.
It's obviously on the spiritual religious stuff. But when you spoke against the woke, that for me was a proving moment. And I have to say something, and this is 100% true. You had more moral courage than pastors that I know that went along with the woke crazy train. And you deserve credit for that because it was of high cost.
Until we get rid of that shit, they're never going to win another election.
I agree. They're not going to take political advice from me.
No, but they might from me.
They could.
Not
and they should.
Not the 10%. but that's 10%.
They're very loud.
They're very loud, but that's it. And I, as FDR once said, I welcome their hatred, because they're just that. First of all, they have no integrity. They don't ever present the full argument. They just cherry pick. I mean, everybody does it to everybody. So I'm not saying I'm unique here, but that is part of the problem of our discourse, is that everybody just wants to forward their narrative. No one is really interested in the full truth. Just the truth. Just give me.
This is precisely what you ought to say as a sensible guy speaking the truth without fear. Please share your thoughts about Bill Maher in the comments section, and remember to like and subscribe for more Truth is on the